They did a bad, bad thing. They did a bad, bad thing.
Oh, they did lots of bad, bad things.
You ever love someone so much you thought your little heart was gonna break in two? I didn't think so. You ever try with all your
Let's get into the economy, and then I'll get into the nuclear false flag hype coming out of the Barry Soetoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama, White House. IMF prepares for global cataclysm. This is from Zero Hedge, Mark Faber. All the pundits thought that the IMF would be on the hook for just 10 billion pounds. The IMF has just announced that it is expanding its new arrangement to borrow multilateral facilities from its existing 50 billion by a whopping 500 billion to 550 billion. The current lending participant group of 26 entities, that's our nation's tax money, will be increased by 13 new members, all of whom will contribute token amounts of capital. The one country most on the hook for the IMF expansion is the United States of America. That's right. Hundreds of billions a year going to the IMF and World Bank for private banks to be able to use the money to go in and take over state governments in the United States, national governments on a planetary scale to take over private corporations. They use your money, 500 billion to 550 billion additional dollars and pounds, euros, however you calculate it. Meanwhile, the entire income tax only brings in $900 billion a year, and every stinking cent of it goes to the regional arm of the IMF and World Bank, the Federal Reserve, the enemy of the Republic, the parasitic, wart-covered giant tick that sits atop our nation, sucking us dry. And the IMF says they're doing this, getting ready for a global financial collapse. We have New Jersey, we have Illinois, we have California, we have Michigan, and as many as, in some numbers, 20-plus states, a lot of news says 10 states, on the verge are already in bankruptcy, with the federal government coming in with more taxpayer money. And then interest is paid to the private banks for our right to use the supposed public money as they debase the currency further and gold explodes in price. Great story from Economic Collapse up at Infowars.com. 12 reasons why millions of Americans are incredibly angry about the state of the U.S. economy. Number one, there simply are not enough jobs for everyone, and those that are there are lower paying as the taxes go up. Number two, more Americans than ever find themselves having to rely on the U.S. government just to survive. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 39.4 million Americans, a new all-time record, received food stamps in January. That's the modern soup line. This was up 22% from the year earlier. In fact, the number of Americans on food stamps is at an all-time record for 14 consecutive months. Number three, foreclosures continue to set records across the United States. And as I told you a year and a half ago, the banks took the trillions and then shut down lending because they want to destroy the economy so they can consolidate it. Reality Track, the California-based authority on property trends and valuations, projects there will be 4.5 million home foreclosures before the end of the year. If you figure 4 people per household, that is another 18 million people that will be forced out of their homes. Number 4, as unemployment and foreclosures continue to soar, tent slums have started popping up all over the United States. And in states like New York, they're pushing for a tax on these people. Is this why our founding fathers fought and died? So we could all live in tent slums as big fat cats on Wall Street roll around in their bailout cash? And Neil Armstrong is criticizing Obama for talking about slashing the, $10 billion a year or so that NASA gets. That's nothing compared to the $1.8 trillion the Pentagon gets. 1.1 trillion on budget, another 700 or even more billion on top of that, and they're talking about getting rid of NASA, basically. I'm not saying it's good one way or the other. The point is, you get 28 trillion to the banks the last year and a half. NASA can't have 10 billion. They've got to cut your sheriff's department by half because everything has to go to the bankers. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central, high noon to 4 p.m. Eastern. We're here live. Thank you for joining us, blasting out on the AM and FM dial, global shortwave, satellite, XM radio, #1 radio podcast online, Infowars.com, one of the top free iPhone apps, 5 stars on our free radio iPhone app at Infowars.com. And we just continue to grow. The #1 viral videos on the web, the #1 and #2 top independent news websites in the world, Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Thank you all for helping us get the word out and making our InfoWar the success it's been. And we're growing exponentially, and the enemy can see that exponential growth curve and is worried, and so we're taking heavy enemy demonization fire in the InfoWar. That means we're over the target. We will continue to pound them and pound them hard. And I want to thank you all for replenishing our treasury in the InfoWar. You do that by buying ball caps, T-shirts, the ball caps and T-shirts, and bumper stickers and citizen rule books. Get the word out about who we are, what we stand for. That's the main event, but it also supports our operations. 2 new films coming out in the next week. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central, when the radio show ends, we will launch at PrisonPlanet.tv, the 2-hour, 20-plus minute film for PrisonPlanet.tv subscribers. It will premiere there at PrisonPlanet.tv, Invisible Empire, New Order Defined. And yes, we're shipping the DVDs out yesterday and today for Invisible Empire, so many of you will be getting them today and tomorrow and by Friday all over the United States. Unless you ordered it with Police State for the Rise of FEMA, then that starts shipping out next week because we have a discount. We can order both DVDs together and save $5 on the 2 new films. Those will be shipping out next week. Though those DVDs, some of those have already arrived. The rest are arriving next week for Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA. Why are both these films so important? Well, one shows the globalist history of crime, their current operations, how they set up front groups, roundtable groups. Amazing film, 18 months in the making. And a year in the making, Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA, shows the sound cannons, the microwave guns, the FEMA camps, without a shadow of a doubt, the COG system, the executive orders, the Governor's Council, Homeland Security, Northcom, riot police attacking citizens, troops on the streets, troops doing gun confiscation drills nationwide in places like Iowa, Hardin, Montana. I mean, it's 2 hours, 20-plus minutes long, 30 minutes of extras. There's 3 hours of material on both DVDs, and I want to thank all of you that have ordered the films. You make what we do here possible. And if you want to order the films, if you haven't ordered them yet, want to have viewing parties and make copies and show them to people and air them on Access TV, and join us in the great Info War, be part of history on the side of justice and the truth, Infowars.com is the coordinates to order the DVDs online, or simply call toll-free 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139, or see them both at PrisonPlanet.tv. You can also watch the live TV show we do each day in the 3rd and 4th hours, sometimes the whole show, but always the 3rd and 4th hour. All my previous films in high quality, my book, Paul Watson's book, both out of print now, e-versions there, thousands and thousands of radio shows, a higher quality 64-bit podcast, 64 kilobit audio on the video. It's all there at PrisonPlanet.tv. Okay. Why do central banks, when they take over a nation, private central banks with the Federal Reserve Act here, Bank of England in England, the Communist Manifesto 1917, when they took over, why do they set up a central bank and an income tax? Because this is global government of, for, and by the central banks. This is a global banking dictatorship. Now openly announced world government, global constitution signed by the banks that our countries will supposedly follow. Carbon taxes, energy taxes, increased income taxes, value-added taxes, increased sales taxes, as they basically get rid of NASA, as they slash the sheriff's departments and fire departments, as they slash your precious welfare, as they slash the student loans, as they increase the interest rates. Everything in a Nigerian or Argentine, or what we've seen in other parts of Europe where the banks have done this, over 90% of the money ends up going to the bankers. Already 100% of the income tax goes to them. All the other federal taxes and regulations and tariffs, that funds the government. But the banks don't want the government funded and not in debt. They want it in debt. That's why they lobby. That's why they give unfunded mandates to the health care bill to the states. Bankrupt, 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 bankrupt.